Hola a todos, bienvenidos a la primera semana del segundo trimestre de español. Hi everyone, and welcome to week one of term two in Spanish. Um, just going to walk you through the first couple of grammar slides that we've got for this term. Looks pretty heavy because we're talking about existence. Let's see exactly what that means. Um, it's not actually that heavy. So we're going to look at how to talk about the things that are around us. In English, the two main ways we do that is to use the phrases there is and there are. Things like there are a lot of restaurants in Coffs Harbour, or there's no cinema near my house. Sentences like that. That's what we're looking at. So to express those ideas of there is or there are, in Spanish you only need one word. That word is spelled H-A-Y, and it's pronounced I. There's an H on the front of that, but that H, as always, is silent in Spanish, so it's just pronounced I. So I means there is or there are. That just depends on the sentence that it's in. So let's look at that in a context that we've seen before. Yeah, con la familia. So we've talked about the family before. Right? So in Spanish, you can say, in our second sentence here, hay 5 personas en mi familia. Or the same thing, exactly the same meaning in this line here. En mi familia hay 5 personas. Okay, so the order of those parts of the sentence, those clauses, it's not important. You can say either bit first, and that hopefully you've worked out that this sentence here, hay 5 personas en mi familia, simply means there are 5 people in my family. And if you change the order around a little bit, it's just in my family, there are 5 people. Okay, so in that sentence, I just means there are. And it's very, very similar to English. Yeah, this is not particularly tricky, I don't think. Yeah. So one more time, hay 5 personas en mi familia. There are 5 people in my family. So if you're going to ask the question with I, so to ask that question, how many people are in your family, we need the question word cuántas. Cuántas. So C-U-A con acento N-T-A-S. Cuántas. Now, remember, this word is gender specific. What does that mean? Well, that means it's cuantos for masculine things and cuantas for feminine things. So with personas, persona, it's got the A in there, that noun, so that's actually a feminine noun. Obviously, people can be male or female. That's not what we're talking about here. It's just a kind of word that persona is. It's a feminine noun. So when you want to say how many people, cuántas personas. How many people? ¿Cuántas personas? ¿Cuántas? How many? Personas. People. So, ¿cuántas personas hay en tu familia? How many people are there in your family? And then to answer, you could say something like, hay 3 personas en mi familia. So in my case, we've got my padre, madre, hermana menor, hermano menor, y yo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if somebody asks me, ¿cuántas personas hay en tu familia? I would say, hay 5 personas en mi familia. So if I ask you that question, ¿cuántas personas hay en tu familia? What would you say? What would your answer be for that? Okay, so have a think about that and then we'll move on. So we've got some examples here. ¿Cuántas personas hay en la familia de Bart? Here's Bart. Y esta es su familia. ¿Cuántas personas hay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so our answer there is simply en la familia de Bart hay 5 personas. Remembering that we can change the order there. We can say this part first. We can say hay 5 personas en la familia de Bart. And that means exactly the same thing. Okay, let's have a look at another example. Okay, so this young lady here, that's Mahalia. That's Sasha. ¿Cuántas personas hay en la familia de Mahalia? Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. En la familia de Mahalia hay 4 personas. No, again, we can change the order of those sentences. So change the order of the clauses in the sentence without changing its meaning. One more. ¿Cuántas personas hay en la familia de Pepa? Igual que Mahalia, same as Mahalia. En la familia de Pepa hay 4 personas. I guess technically they're not personas, they are cerdos, cerdo being the word for pig. But I think you get the point. All right, so there's some 3 examples. Now, if we move along, one thing I just want to mention quickly is using the de, the de, to talk about possession. So in Spanish, there's no shortened way to talk about things that belong to people. So you always use the form the something of someone. So what does that mean? Okay, I've got some examples here. So in this first line here, we've got Michael's family. So in English, we've got that apostrophe S, which just means Michael's family. What does that mean? Well, that means the family of Michael. That's what that means in English. And that's actually how you say it in Spanish. So you say la familia de Michael. Right, another example on the second line here, you've got Carrie's house. So you've got again in English, we just use the apostrophe S. What does Carrie's house mean? Well, it means the house of Carrie, which in Spanish is literally what you say, la casa de Carrie. Last example we've got there on the third line, Oscar's teacher. What does it mean? That means the teacher of Oscar, el profesor de Oscar. That's the way you have to do it in Spanish. There's no short way. In fact, the only contractions in all of Spanish are al and del. Al and del become al and del. We'll learn those later. Okay, so that's just something. It's not hard to understand. I just wanted to point it out to make it really explicit and obvious, that particular point. La familia de Michael, la casa de Carrie, y el profesor de Oscar. All right, moving along. Do you remember these? We've got our possessive adjectives. Now, I'm just going to look at this second column here today because they're the only ones we need. So how do we say my is mi, your is tu, his or her is both su, our is nuestro or nuestra, depending on if you're talking about a masculine or a feminine noun. So in your case, your Spanish teacher is me, and I'm a guy. So if you were talking about our Spanish teacher, it would be nuestro profesor de español. But if you've got, I don't know, okay, if you do ancient history and you've got Mrs. Bailey, right, it would be nuestra profesora de historia, because Mrs. Bailey's a woman. Same with your for plural you, so this isn't just one you, it's like all of you, there's a vuestro or vuestra, and there is also su. Okay, so we're going to look at some examples of that in the next in our next sentences. So working through, my class would be mi clase, your class is tu clase. His teacher, su profesor. Her teacher, su profesor. Our house, nuestra casa. Our teacher, if it's me, a guy, nuestro profesor. Your teacher, all of you as a group, vuestro profesor, a guy. Your house, you as a group, vuestra casa. And su casa, su profesor. There. All right, why is that important? So, for example, other ways to use hay. We've got a question there. ¿Cuántas personas hay en nuestra clase de español? That's a sentence question which looks complicated. It's not really if we break it down. So, ¿cuántas personas? How many people? Hay. There are. En nuestra, our clase de español, class of Spanish. Right. So, how many people are there in our Spanish class? And here's the answer. En nuestra clase de español hay 8 personas. In our Spanish class, there are 8 people. And again, you can change the order of this answer here. We can say this part first if we like. We can say hay 8 personas en nuestra clase de español, like we've done in the question. Yeah, so either way there doesn't matter. And here's the English one. How many people in our Spanish class? In our Spanish class, there are 8 people. So again, we're using hay for there are. Another example. I've got a lovely photo here of the wonderful Coffs Harbour jetty strip. And our question there is, ¿hay muchos restaurantes en Coffs Harbour? And the answer is sí. Hay muchos restaurantes en Coffs Harbour. Shouldn't be too hard for you to work out what that means. And there's our English. Are there many restaurants? Muchos restaurantes, many restaurants. So the question there is, are there many restaurants in Coffs Harbour? Yes, there are many restaurants in Coffs Harbour. Whether or not you think that's true or not is relevant. That's how you make those sentences in Spanish. If you want to say no, there aren't many restaurants in Coffs Harbour, you simply say no hay muchos restaurantes en Coffs Harbour. Just no, there aren't many restaurants in Coffs Harbour. All right, we've got one more. This particular Desigual is a fashion brand. It's quite famous in Spain and actually other European countries. My sister loves Desigual clothes. I used to buy her stuff regularly for her birthday when I lived there, and she thought I was awesome. So this thing here, the photo there, is una tienda de Desigual. So I'm thinking you can work out what that question means. Yeah, hay una tienda de Desigual en Coffs Harbour. And our answer is no. No hay una tienda de Desigual en Coffs Harbour. So using the picture as a guide and your super intelligence, you'll have worked out that that question is simply, is there a Desigual store in Coffs Harbour? And the answer is no, there is not a Desigual store in Coffs Harbour. Just one point of interest. So the word tienda there obviously means shop or store. Tienda de Desigual, literally store of Desigual, so Desigual store. That word tienda is actually the same word in Spanish as the word for tent. And tienda de camping is a tent for camping. And that's because they reckon the first people who had kind of shops and stalls in marketplaces in Spain were the Moors from Africa when they came and conquered Spain towards the end of the first millennium AD. And they'd have their shops in the bazaar in like the central square of the town, and they'd have awnings that cover them over. So they were kind of like tents. So that word tienda originally meant tent, and now it means shop, which I think is pretty cool. So that's it. That's all I wanted to go through in this particular video. All right. So we've looked at just using the word I. Yeah, I meaning there is or there are. Right, so we can ask questions about, is there this? Are there those things? Yeah, hay una tienda de Desigual en Coffs Harbour. Is there a store? And if we just go back and look at our examples with family, yeah, we use the word cuántas, meaning how many. ¿Cuántas personas hay en tu familia? How many people are there? If you want to, you could add, we've got a question about restaurants at the end. So you could actually say, ¿Cuántos restaurantes hay en Coffs Harbour? How many restaurants are there in Coffs Harbour? So there's lots of questions you can ask with cuántos or cuántas. Cool. So, ya está bien. That's okay for now, I think. So I'm going to sign off. As always, good luck with Spanish. Contact me if you've got any questions. Y hasta luego.